Well,
Good
good morning.
morning.
How are you?
Very good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm surviving the heat.
Oh, how's Vegas heat though? Is it
It's
in the
ridiculous.
hundred?
I think they said today it should get up to somewhere between 112 and 115. So, cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah, I'm heading out there at the end of the month, so oh,
Oh my
might be
goodness.
hot.
So, you're definitely coming during the heat.
Right.
But this year that I was here, I feel like it's unfair that it decided to be hotter than usual because normally June is the best time to be here. May and June were just beautiful the first year I moved here, or maybe that was just the fantasy. The first year it seemed perfect.
Right. June is still considered like spring, right? August is we're in the midsummer, so it's
Exactly.
really hot. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, but big news here. The Mirage Hotel is closing today. And so they had I guess about a week where they had to get rid of about $1.6 million. And I was talking to a friend of mine because I knew she had to have gone. I'm not really, big on the casinos. And she says, oh my goodness, it was ridiculous. People were lined up waiting for machines and all, from early in the morning. The contest, I guess, began at like 3 in the afternoon.
Wow. Are they closing permanently?
Yes, they're going to be, I think they're going to demo the property for another purpose. I think they're building either the NBA stadium or something else there. I don't remember which one of the properties, or is that Tropicana? Anyway, two properties are being closed and being repurposed for other uses. And I think that Mirage is one of those.
There's a lot of competitions out there because people like to stay in a newer hotel and beautiful hotels. All those whole hotel needs to be updated. Otherwise, people are not gonna spend the money there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we go any further, we must say hello to all of you and welcome you to another episode of Wealth Doctors. I'm Dr. Stephanie Ardrey, and with me is Dr. Andrea Le, and we're so happy to see you. We love coming to you each week, sharing information about generating wealth for yourself and your family and your communities through your efforts of putting those things forward. So we are coming to you from two different locations, Dr. Le in Orange County, California, and myself in Henderson, Nevada today.
Well, so today we do have a big topic that a lot of people are curious how it's done and what's the best way to go about it. And it's a popular topic that many wanted to learn how to do it correctly. That way you don't incur penalty if you need to do it. And also there's advantages and disadvantages along with that. So today we are talking about Roth conversion.
Roth conversions, my goodness.
Right. Last week we were talking about Roth conversion and we had a request. Last week we were talking about tax now or tax later. And this week, because of the request of one of the viewers said, why don't we talk about Roth conversion? I said, okay, let's do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And because it does come up, especially when people are thinking about shifts. And then I also think that it's important when we're considering things like, as we say, what's happening in terms of where you are in your tax bracket, what's happening as relates to are you making any retirement plans? Are you going to be exiting your company and looking to then shift resources from a company-led 401k, for example, to some other vehicle as you depart the organization. So there's a few different scenarios that may present themselves where this would be something that you'd want to consider, and you'd want to know, is now the best time to convert it, or is another time a valuable time to convert it? And so that requires, I think, both understanding from the financial perspective, but also from the tax liability perspective, how to best make the decision.
I think the popular reason why people like to convert from a traditional IRA or 401k or 403b or 457 or SEP IRA even, the two most popular reasons are they don't have to pay tax later on when they withdraw the money. So that's one of the big advantages. And also the second one is no required minimum distribution compared to the 401k plan and IRA. You are subject to require minimum distribution at age 72 and a half or 73. If you don't take it out that year, which is require you to take a minimum amount from your 401k, you will get penalty, and it's a big penalty. And not a lot of people are aware of that, because they're thinking, the longer you wait, the longer you grow your money, the more you have, because we would love to see more, right? But when you are MD or require minimum distribution from your IRA, you may subject to a larger tax bracket at that particular time. Your provisional income might be increased. You have more rental incomes, or you have other sources income, and they're all combined together. That would bring your tax bracket to the higher tiers, and that could cost you a lot more if you waited that long to take out your money. So now, and again, remember the IRA before 59 and a half, when you withdraw, you have to pay penalty of 10% on top of the tax that you have to pay. So there's many things that you at least those are the two most important reason why people love Roth, because whatever the money you grow in there, you don't have to pay tax later on. So that's a huge advantage. However, a lot of people, there is a limit how much you can contribute to Roth. So if you are 50 or under, maximum Roth contribution is $7,000 per year. And if you over 50, it goes up to $8,000 per year. And now, as far as the income limit, it does have an income limit as well. So you make a certain amount, like let's say your modified adjusted gross income is over 146 for a single filers, then you're not qualified for the contributions. So a lot of people would choose to do Roth conversion for that reason, because for the 401k contribution or IRA contribution, you have no income limit. There is a limit of how much you can contribute per year, but there's no income limit, and you can eventually convert that over to Roth each year. You can do one time, which is going to incur a lot of taxes. We wouldn't recommend that, but or you can do partial conversion. Yeah.
So that's interesting, because I think that that's why it's so important to have a plan, because you need to factor in several things. And to me, I say it always requires a little bit of an analysis where you can compare apples to apples. So I love being able to kind of put it in a spreadsheet and see, okay, well, if I make this particular decision, then these are the particular costs at this time. If I do a partial, or if there are other investment ideas. I mean, I've been talking to people that are looking at exiting an organization, for example, and then wanting to manage their retirement plans themselves. So converting into a self-directed IRA in that process and what that looks like. But as you mentioned, the benefits of not necessarily just making one decision, a partial conversion into some diversified strategies, but you'd want to know what those strategies are before you start making those decisions, so that you could further really evaluate, what the potential outcomes would be from each of those decisions, and at what time in the future are there kind of consequences, or are those time horizons or financial limits, or any of those variables that can impact the decisions that you're attempting to make.
Right. The process how to do it is very simple. How to convert from a traditional account, IRA or 401k, into Roth. You basically just transfer the amount from the traditional IRA or 401k, given that you have left the company. Usually, if you are working as your current company right now with a 401k plan, they will not allow you to do that. But if you over 59 and a half, sometimes they allow you to roll over if you have certain amount, but different companies may have different rules apply. So you want to check with your company for how and when you can convert. Now you only pay tax on the amount that you convert. So let's say you have 100,000, and for that particular tax year, you can go up. Say your income is 70,000, for example. Now, for a marginal tax rate of 12%, your income can go up to 94,300 for a married joint filing. So then, for that particular year, you may choose to convert 20,000 instead of a whole 100,000, because that would bring you to a higher tax bracket. So 20,000 will still keep you under 12% marginal tax rate, and that convert, and you only pay tax on that amount only, the 20,000 that you convert over. Another thing that you consider is the tax implication when you convert. And the people mostly like the tax-free growth, right? Compounding over the years and have the ability to take it out when you need. Another thing that you may want to also consider is the time horizon. Like when you convert over to the Roth account, you may have to wait for 5 years or until 59 and a half, and that you can even touch the account. So at least 5 years into the account. So let's say if you're 65 and you want to convert it over and you need the money right away, you may not have access to the money right away. You may have to wait for 5 years before you touch that Roth account. Timing consideration, you can do full amounts or partial, and depends on where you are, what age. There is no age limit or income limit to do the Roth conversion. If you have a past 401k or a current IRA, you can do that. You can convert part of it, but keep in mind the amount of tax you have to pay for that particular year.
So typically when you're changing, you're basically just changing the structure and how the accounts are held, but it doesn't necessarily mean that what your holdings include. So the diversification of your portfolio has to change, right? You could still kind of continue on, but you're just basically doing it through a different instrument.
You would have to create a Roth account and then transfer from traditional account to the Roth account. Once you're in the Roth account, of course, how you diversify your portfolio depends on your knowledge how to invest. Or you can have a particular financial institution that monitor your investment, or you do it yourself. Now, a lot of people will invest into mutual funds or index funds. It's more diversified and less chance to lose money instead of individual stocks if you don't know how to invest. But within that, yes, you can diversify it out just so you can reduce your risk.
Yeah, the point I was getting at is that I think it's so important for people. I keep using the word planning, but it really is important to think through the scenarios and just kind of consider, your age. If you have a spouse, the age of your spouse. If you have children, the age of your children. If you have parents, the age of your parents. If you have other folks that might be dependent upon you, that might influence any part of your journey, check in on yourself. What is your wellness ability? How healthy are you? Have you been stressing yourself? And sometimes we kick these things down the line, but they really are important. And you want to be able to make a decision from a level of being able to be informed, as opposed to making a decision under time constraints, because sometimes those decisions are the decisions that are lacking, just because you didn't have enough window to rigorously evaluate your other possibilities. And so I think that that's the part that's so important, is being able to spend time working through a few different scenarios.
Yes, absolutely assess and see if you decide to do it. Maybe you can consult with your tax professional to see where you are in that particular year for the tax bracket, just so you don't have to pay a lot more tax than you have to. How does a Roth conversion works? So there are about 3 ways that you can do this. One is a direct rollover. Now, if you left your company, the previous company left your job, and you leave your 401k behind. Now you can convert that over to a Roth account by having your plan administrator send that money directly to your new account. So they can do that. That's one way. Another way is it's called trustee to trustee transfer, meaning financial institution. So let's say you have Fidelity right now in the 401k in Fidelity or IRA in Fidelity. Now you open a Roth account in Vanguard. You can have that account from Fidelity to directly transfer that money over to your Roth in Vanguard. That I think that would be the safest way to do it, because you're not even touching the money. You only have to pay tax on the amount that you convert. So ensure that you're not paying any penalty. Now the third way of doing it is it's called 60 days rollover, meaning a financial institution or your former employer administration, what they do, they cut you a check. They send it to you to your home. You have 60 days to deposit that check. You can deposit a whole or part of it. You have 60 days to deposit that check and transfer that amount to the new institution. If you don't do it within 60 days, there is a potential of penalty occur with that too. So the safest way is trustee to trustee transfer if you decided to do it.
Wow, that just says that, people can't be trusted with their own money. Is that what that
Yeah.
sounds like?
Well, you know what? If you get the money in the bank, it's like, oh, that's something. Maybe a vacation would be nice.
Wow. Wow. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's about staying focused and understanding that gratification can be
Mhm.
slightly delayed. But don't give up the opportunity for the future. But it's interesting. I was speaking with one yesterday, and
Mhm.
she was sharing that she was a little disappointed because a family member had not really put in place protections and just other things around retirement. And so I find it interesting because we hear more and more of these conversations, but it's and you see so many opportunities for people to gain information, but I think it's still complex. I think it's still complex. And I know that that's why we've even talked about not only taking these conversations a little bit further in depth from just the, vlog that we're doing each week, but even adding webinars so that we can really drill down and help people to understand some of these options that they should consider as they're planning for the future for not only themselves and again for their families. So here's my challenge to anyone that's listening. If you would be interested in having us invite you to a free webinar, send us an email at info@wealthdoctors.us, not only indicating your interest, some of the times that you might like to check out this webinar, but the topics that you might be interested in us doing a deeper dive on. And we will plan some of these webinars so that we could spend a little bit more time, probably even inviting in some of the representatives. It'd be great to have a representative from, Fidelity, a representative from Vanguard, some of these other organizations that assist in this process, to provide you with information about how this is done and executed.
Right. Yes. I mean, a webinar would be great. That would provide, general public more information. And if you have question, you can just put in your question then. And that's an opportunity to learn more about a particular topic. So back to the Roth conversion. When does Roth conversion make sense? I mean, people love to not pay tax, right? Because that's the main primary reason. But is your tax bracket high now? Is it going to be high later on? So those are the questions that you need to consider. The big question is to pay you're able to pay tax now, for the amount that you convert over. Also, times is time on your side. I mean, if you are 65 or over 50, when you convert it over, you have to wait for at least 5 years. So if you need the money right away, it may not be the right reason to do it, right? I mean, you have to wait for 5 years for that before you take out the money from the Roth account. Yes, so those are the things you have to remember. Now, for the money to stay in the Roth for 5 years, your withdrawal on earning is going to be it become tax free, okay, and penalty free in retirement. So that's a nice thing about the Roth. And you have to consider, is your income is going to be the same or more later on? Is it less now or more later on? And if it's more later on, then of course, tax Roth conversion make more sense now because your tax bracket now is lower, and we don't know what the tax rate is going. Is it going up in the future? Very possible that it's going up in the future, right? I mean, we're talking about the highest tax bracket in 1994, 1995. I'm sorry, 1944, 1945. That's when the tax bracket at the time was at 94%.
It's insane.
Right? You think we pay a lot of tax now? No.
Yeah. Now it's also that, and then it's also dependent upon, again, if you have dependents and deductions that influence your tax liability as well. And that's definitely something to consider. It's like when you're raising kids or you have other dependents, those additional expenses sometimes impact the ability to move resources. And sometimes the challenge is a challenge to sock away extra resources, but that also might be a good time, a time that you have other mitigation measures that are going to assist you with your tax liability would be a good time. And then also the longer window that you have for your funds to grow, both tax-free as well as compound, you may have a greater, horizon of value at the end when you begin to access those funds.
Right. And, all of these questions that you have to take into consideration if you decided to convert it over your tax bracket, your time horizon. Are you making more now or more later? Do you have what kind of deduction that you have right now, and what kind of deduction you anticipate to have in the future? Especially now when we're working, we have kids, we have mortgage, you have a lot of deductions, so that will bring down your tax bracket. And so, therefore, converting over might make a lot more sense now to save that amount into a vehicle that grow tax-free and compounding interest for you tax-free later on in the future. And that's the reason why people love the Roth account, because it grows tax-free and compounding tax-free and no RMD. So, but the one thing that people haven't considered, especially if you are, you well-versed with the stock market, you know how to invest, it's no problem for those people. But for people that have no idea how to invest and no knowledge how to diversify, how to keep the account or how to monitor the account to make sure you gain each year and avoid the market loss, then, you may want to involve some financial professional to help you with that process and as far as diversification, because even though that you're compounding interest and you're not paying tax later on, but if your account is not growing, then that's or at least beating the inflation, right? The inflation rate. So I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she was mentioned she invests into stock, but not really knowing how. And eventually her account, I mean, it was at 100,000. She lost like 80,000 and she didn't even know how. And, that 80,000 is a huge amount that you can save and grow with, a strategy that grow conservatively. Okay, so also, what do you need? What do you need to know before convert? So I think with Fidelity, they have a deadline of December 31st for that particular tax year to convert over. So that deadline is 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You convert it over for that particular tax year.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you plan to convert, talk to your tax professionals or financial planner that can help you with this process, or you can do it yourself. You know how to do it. This is a simple process. Yeah. And also, if you at near retirement, not at age 73, when you're required to take a required minimum distributions, you want to take the distribution first before you convert over. That way, when you convert it over, you don't have to take it out. Yeah. Another thing, the Roth conversion make a lot more sense. We mentioned earlier is if you think that you're going to pay more tax in the future, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm also thinking about, especially people that retire and then decide to pursue another career as well. And I could see several of those scenarios that happen. A lot of times people will retire. Maybe they get a package for early retirement. So they exit the organization, but then they re-engage either with the same organization or with other organizations. They launch a consultancy, for example, oftentimes. And I could see then, that conversion basically creating two opportunities. One, to go ahead and transfer those funds, but two, to mitigate whatever the tax liabilities are at that point, but also three, as leverage with building out the next organization and also saying that, hey, I'm not going to need the resources for the 5 years, especially if I have another stream of income that I'm going to be able to rely upon, but then also the potential opportunity now that I have this vehicle available, being able to also from this new stream of income, put money into this now new source that's going to allow for both compounding and tax-free growth. I could just see so many upsides from that type of strategy being available.
Right. I mean, there's different ways that we can do this. One of the questions a lot of people ask when they do conversion is how much tax do you pay on your Roth conversion? Now, how much taxes really depend on your tax bracket, period. So you want to keep that tax bracket marginal rate under, under, like, let's say if you're within the 12% and you want to keep that amount under 12%. Or if you're at the 22% bracket, then, keep that under, even $1 over, you still have to pay tax on that marginal rate. So it's all depend on the tax bracket you're at the time when you file your tax. And another question is, people ask is, how do I avoid taxes on Roth conversion? That's a huge question. Like, they want to avoid taxes, right? Well, you may not be able to avoid tax, when you convert, but you can reduce tax.
That's,
you can reduce tax.
Yeah, right.
The tax burden, like stay within your marginal rate and having more tax reduction during the working years when you have kids and mortgage and all of that. So you can reduce your tax bracket in that particular year. Now, people are always talking about Roth conversion. They are really intrigued how to do it. But there is another plan. It's called Super Roth, or Roth alternative. And that will allow you to convert also access the money tax-free at retirement. And if you are a person with conservative growth, and I mean, conservative and not care about the appreciate of the stock market so much, then this might be the right vehicle for you, because it's safe, it's protect your principal 100%. And if the market go up, you'll gain some, but of course it's not going to be a high amount, but it's safe. Safety is the main primary reason here why people do Roth alternative, to keep the money into that particular vehicle so that they can protect the principal 100%, and also grow that money compounding over the years. We're talking about if you grow conservatively, maybe about 8% per year, right? Even 8% per year, like the S&P 500 for the course of over 15, 20 years, the growth is about average 8%, 7.3 average. Now with these kind of vehicle, it could be 8%, and compounding that over the years, your money could double in about 8, 9 years, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And your principal is 100% protect. So that's what most people care, especially near retirement. You don't want to lose a penny of your hard-earned money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another possible way that people can convert Roth alternative. And if you're curious how that works, reach out to us. We can walk you through that process, or go over a plan that fit your scenario, your financial situation, and your goals. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's again, it all just comes down to thinking about what it is that you need and what's available in terms of options. It's about gaining insight and information, and just planning your future so that you can shift your money into position to work for you. You've worked for it, so now you want your money to continue to work for you. Well,
Exactly.
as usual, we find ourselves at the top of the end of our time together, our time allocated for this particular conversation. It goes so fast each week, I tell you. I'm so glad that we could have this conversation about the Roth conversions. And next week, we'll come up with another exciting topic as well. And we are grateful that you joined us today. We hope you'll join us again next week. Remember, if it's 10 a.m. Pacific time, it's time for wealthdoctors.us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Take care, everyone.